So Russia has finally responded as to why they are in Niger, Africa. They have responded to why they're at the exact same airbase as the US military, known as Airbase 101 in Niger, Africa. First thing I want to say is, if you are unaware, the US military has currently been asked to leave Niger, Africa. So it looks like the US military is trying to consolidate and really try to figure out what they're going to do with all of their equipment, but also where they're going to go. There are reports that the troops over in Niger, U.S. military members, will just be sent over to African Command headquarters where they are currently stationed. Now, as far as this story, I first want to touch on what Lloyd Austin has said. Lloyd Austin is the top dog, top general, Secretary of Defense. Here's exactly what he has to say of the entire situation. Airbase 101, where our forces are, is a Nigerian Air Force base that is co-located with an international airport in the capital city. The Russians are in a separate compound and don't have access to U.S. forces or access to our equipment. Okay, so this is pretty vital because there's a lot of people out there thinking that the Russians and the Americans are about to square away and have like a jiu-jitsu match or a boxing match on some random street on the airbase. That is not currently the case. Again, this is a rather large airbase, but the very, very crucial thing is this airbase belongs to Niger, Africa. The U.S. military just has the presence there, and they're allowed to be there, but so are other nations. So don't get it twisted. It's really not that crazy that Russia is there, but it is a rather unique thing that it's the professional big military of Russia. This is not Wagner Group. Typically, whenever Russian forces or quote-unquote Russian forces are in Africa, typically it's a reference to Wagner Group. But let's go ahead and get straight to the meat and potatoes. Let's go ahead and talk about what exactly Russia has to say about all of this. Here's what Dmitry Peskov has to say about this, and if you follow anything Russian geopolitics, especially with the war up in Ukraine, you've definitely seen this guy before. He is the guy, he's the spokesperson for the world on behalf of Russia. Here's what he has to say about all of this. He told reporters in Moscow on Friday that Russia was developing ties with various African countries in all areas, including in the military one. So it was very short and sweet. But again, I don't think anyone is surprised that he's straight up like, yeah, we are developing ties with Russia. This is currently the strategy for Russia, if you are unaware. Again, the main reason why this is a rather larger story than others, that Russia's in Africa, is because this is the big military of Russia and not Wagner. Typically, Wagner will act as an ambassadorship for Russia in terms of security, strike up some sort of deal, train some troops, and there you go, Russia's in the area. But again, the reason why this is a big story is because, look, the United States, let's be honest, they're getting kicked out of Niger. They're looking for a new base or a new area to locate because the U.S. military needs to be in Africa as far as the strategy for going after the adversaries and enemies of the United States within Africa. It's been a long-term mission. It's been going on for a while now, so to lose Niger is a big deal. Now, as far as Russia, they're coming into Africa in a very interesting strategy. Yes, they do use Wagner Group, where they will protect areas of a country, usually where there's maybe some uranium, maybe some salt, maybe some oil. Wagner will provide the security, and these countries can still sell economically on a global trade, but Russia will get the best deal at the end of the day. That's how Wagner operates. As far as the speculation as to what Russia is technically or legitimately trying to do in Niger is to go after their uranium. If you guys are unaware, which I'm sure, you know, this is a very smart audience. I know you guys are all pretty smart. Uranium is the #1 natural resource in Niger. This is what everybody wants when they're working with or in Niger. This is where France crucially messed up. Where France, at the end of the day, you can tell exactly what they were trying to do. Sell uranium to France at a cheaper price so that France can keep their nuclear power plants running. Now, again, this is mere speculation. This is why many people think that Russia is currently in Niger, is to secure some sort of deal or to protect the uranium within Niger and obviously bring it back up to Russia. Now, the thing about Russia and Africa, again, they are in a lot of countries. They're most popular or most known for working in Mali. I advise for you guys to go look up some graphs or some charts and statistics on what happens usually when Russia goes into a country. I'm not about to sit here and be very biased and say whenever the US comes into a country, everything is good. I am well aware, even as a former US soldier, when the US goes into any country in the world, especially in the military capacity, that means there's probably going to be a showdown or some sort of fighting. That's why the US military is in an area. But as far as Russia, the exact same thing happens. Typically, when Russian forces go into a country, whether it's Wagner or regular Russian troops within Africa, these countries do start to deteriorate. And I'm not even saying this as an American. Even though Russia, they are the adversaries of America, this is simply facts. Go look up all the stats and statistics, especially with Mali. What ends up happening is that Russia, yes, they will secure certain parts of a country. Yes, they will train your troops, but they also have no issue with collateral damage. They have no issue with pissing off the local population. And essentially what was happening in Niger, Africa, is that some people would argue that Russia was actually doing what they're supposed to be doing in Mali, which is security, but they were pushing all of these adversaries to the United States into Niger and causing more issues. This is essentially why Niger ended up falling apart. If you go and follow what the junta had to say and what the coup had to say, why they wanted to kick the French out, and why they wanted to kick out Mohamed Bazoum, which was the former president, who was pretty close with the French. There was a lackluster of security, and what Russia provides, or what they say they provide when going into Africa, is not only are we going to provide you security, now you're going to be working with one of the biggest powerhouses in the world. We are a superpower, we have resources, we can develop your countries, and we can work with you. If there's one other country who does the exact same thing, it is China. But they do it not in a military sense. China will sell you like drones, they will build universities for you, but in exchange, let us operate within your country. Let us develop in your country, and we'll have a direct economy with your country. That's how China typically does things. Again, go look into all of that. Don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. But I promise you that's exactly what's happening. So again, as far as this whole US military and Russia on the same base, it is a very awkward situation. But again, according to all the top generals and the reports coming out of the US military, everything seems to be okay. I think this story maybe did get a little hyped. When I was looking into it, maybe even myself, I was like, whoa, what is going on? But again, when you go look into Syria, U.S. military members and Russian members, they pass by each other every single day, or they're in communication with one another. Not only that, Russian forces, as far as the Air Force and U.S. Air Force, they're also in constant communication with one another, whether or not people or, they're intercepting each other's aircraft. I think there's almost over 50 interceptions a year as far as Russia to U.S. and U.S. to Russia. Look, at the end of the day, Russia and the United States, they are adversaries, but only like a few years ago, even before the war in Ukraine, Russia and U.S. troops have trained together. I literally have friends, I have family members who have trained with Russian forces in Europe. So again, guys, there's not going to be like a war or internal war. However, Russia has definitely shown their cards and have shown that, look, U.S. military members are out. We're probably going to come in, and if I'm going to be honest with you, the United States military did the exact same thing in Afghanistan. We're almost seeing this like Uno reverse card effect, where if you've ever heard of what's called Bagram Airbase, I'm sure a lot of viewers have actually been stationed there in Afghanistan. It was a massive Russian airbase with an active minefield. But the U.S. military in Afghanistan was utilizing a Russian airbase known as Bagram. And so what I'm predicting and what I think might happen is that Russia going into Niger, Africa, not only will they get access to Airbase 101, they're already there, but most likely when the U.S. military leaves Niger, there's a really big airbase known as 201, which was a massive project. There was a lot of scrutiny behind it, but the U.S. military justified that it had to be done for $300 million, and who knows how many billions of dollars has gone into the project of actually deploying troops and activating troops in the area to go fight the enemies of the United States. So again, everything is coming full circle. This is a really big win for Russia, considering that not only is there uranium in Niger, but there was also supposed to be a pipeline project that was going to cut through Niger. From Nigeria, cutting through Niger, going up into Europe. I don't know how that's going to happen. Russia always seems to be one step ahead of everybody when it comes to pipelines. Like, they must be great at that somehow. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot more to the story that we will probably hear in the coming days. But as far as this video, the point I want to make and the point I want to talk about is that the U.S. military seems to be totally fine with this. I think Lloyd Austin and the top generals have realized, look, we're leaving, we're done, there's nothing we can do. Just like Afghanistan, it was very bittersweet. As soon as the U.S. military left Afghanistan, China swooped on in and said, hey, we'll be your best friends, we'll even work together, and we'll even acknowledge you as a legitimate state in the world. So that is pretty much the video. I don't want to overhype this or go into too much speculation. I hope you guys do your own research and realize this typically is the strategy for really any country around the world, where if a major superpower comes out, let me come in. It just so happens that Russia right now, they are gaining some momentum, especially in the regions of Africa, which are rather vital to the U.S. mission as far as fighting enemies of the U.S., but also as far as natural resources, productivity, the economy, and education in the region of Africa. It looks like Russia has taken full advantage of this, and I really hope Niger does not turn into Mali, because I don't think there's any turning back. Once you kick out the French, once you kick out the US, this is like a domino effect. One country after the other falls and falls, either gets turned over to Russia or another big superpower that wants to work with the African state. So that's currently the story.